Hamilton vs. Rent, The 10 Dual Commandments. The 2015 musical Hamilton took off as soon as it was released, skyrocketing it into popular culture where it has remained ever since. A musical with this much popularity and major social impact hasn't been seen since Rent, which was released in 1996. Both revolutionized Broadway and created major buzz even in the non-theater community. Even though both musicals are revolutionary and unique, their roots can be traced to other forms of art. Rent was inspired by the opera La Boheme, which premiered in 1869. This opera tackles tuberculosis and the lives of struggling young artists. In Rent, tuberculosis was modernized to be HIV and AIDS. This better reflected what the nation was going through in the 1990s. Also, many of the characters' names and professions in Rent draw from the characters in La Boheme. For example, Rodolfo, a poet, becomes Roger, a songwriter. Musetta, a singer, becomes Maureen, a performance artist, and Colleen, a philosopher, becomes Tom Collins, a philosophy professor. As well as having similar characters, the musical also shared similar lyrics and melodies as the opera. Hamilton, on the other hand, comes from many different sources. The obvious inspiration was the book Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow, but even more had to be drawn from historic artifacts and locations, such as Founding Brothers and American Creation by Joseph J. Ellis, Morris Jumel Mansion, Nevis, Hamilton's hometown in Puerto Rico, The Heartbreak of Aaron Burr by H.W. Brands, and from Washington, D.C., historic archives provided by the mother of the director, Thomas Kail. Much of the music, lyrics, and its structure was inspired by other musicals such as Jesus Christ Superstar, Evita, The Last 5 Years, In the Heights, Bring It On, and Les Miserables. And the most notable and popular aspect of Hamilton, the rapping, was influenced by Biggie Smalls, Jay-Z, and Big Pun. This background is probably the show's biggest difference and speaks to the generation they were targeting. Rent used softer qualities in their music, even though it's considered a rock musical. The social message is driven, but is sometimes disguised behind stereotypical musical theater-esque music and softer ballads between characters. Anything else would have disillusioned the millennial generation. While in Hamilton, every song that delivers the political message used rapping to tell it. This is useful to our generation today. Many of the top 100 songs in today's top hits are in the rap genre or at least feature rapping. Lin-Manuel Miranda, the show's creator, is capitalizing on this and presenting political information in a way this generation will understand. But these differences between musical styles, one softer and the other driven, affects the way people perceive the message. Rent seems to timidly ask millennials to listen or watch, while Hamilton forces Gen Z to listen and view everywhere. Rent and Hamilton can be seen under two perspectives within popular culture, the interactionist and the critical. The interactionist perspective can be seen in the ways people connected or related to the shows. For Rent, as Cammila Collar pointed out, spread in her small conservative Michigan town through interactions with fellow classmates until it reached the entire school. Quote, "This wouldn't end up being the last time I encountered Rent-obsessed classmates who I never would have dreamed would tolerate the musical." End quote. As the music was projected through boomboxes and CD players, more and more people could relate and add to the show's popularity. As well as people spreading information about the show at the local level, many celebrities added to the frenzy by attending the show and being photographed there with the cast. The celebrities made more and more people want to come, specifically young adults. This is very similar to how Hamilton made national headlines, except theirs came from word of mouth, social media, and streaming platforms targeting Gen Z. From YouTube videos on Lin-Manuel performing Alexander Hamilton at the White House to reports of Jake Gyllenhaal, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Savannah Guthrie attending the premiere, the show demanded national attention. After opening night, it was reported on the Today Show, as well as many other news outlets. Opening night also happened to be in a time where people were considering who the nation's next president would be. This also created considerable publicity for Hamilton. They also were so popular that the show now has tours in London and Puerto Rico, allowing the show's message and values to reach globally. Although these ways did help both shows become popular, there is another explanation, one which is much darker and bases the show's popularity on an industry and other groups taking advantage of a time where they can find easy success. As you know, Rent added a lot of the dialogue and information about people living with HIV or AIDS to a lot of people, specifically millennials that didn't understand the issue beforehand. Larson, the creator of Rent, also showed people a look into LGBTQ culture. This is where we start to look at Rent through the critical approach. Larson was a white heterosexual male, someone who really could only understand by looking in from the outside. This might be why all the characters in Rent were stereotypes and did not completely capture the true LGBTQ community. By reducing them to stereotypes, or masking them, as Rubin and Melnick put it, they mocked their community and took away their power. They removed their voice from the narrative. Another criticism of the show was that it romanticized HIV and AIDS, especially by letting Mimi live at the end. Even though a lot of the plotline and characters were flawed, it attracted massive amounts of people, especially young adults. They created an opportunity for superfans to buy tickets for $20 if they waited in line long enough. Due to success in New York, they started tours of the show so they could cater to even more people. By getting the show to as many people as possible, specifically millennials, they created lifelong customers. With this popularity and the understanding of this popularity, they created more tours and a movie that would guarantee financial success. But at the end of the day, the show presented the nation with misconstrued versions of a large community within the United States and a major epidemic that affected families everywhere, while giving no real solutions to these problems. Larson created a world which people wanted to see by masking a community to make them popular and entertaining, not true representations of themselves. As Caller put it, quote, "Hopefully, Rent left some of these kids with at least a small, naive familiarity with LGBT plus people and issues that could allow them and flourish as they entered college, the voting booth, and the workplace," end quote. We do have to hope that Rent tried to stand for more and tried to help educate millennials, and that they didn't just operate for financial gain. Now, with a first glance at Hamilton, they seem socially conscious with their diverse cast and story of immigrants. Surely there are no ulterior motives to Lin-Manuel Miranda's creative show, which just happened to come around in the right place at the right time. Unfortunately, this is not the case, considering this luck was planned. Hamilton fans did not just happen to grab onto the show. They were served the show and its message with a silver spoon. Most people don't realize that Hamilton premiered the exact same day as the Republican presidential debates. With extremely divisive candidates and messages, Miranda capitalized on these feelings and helped divide the country by presenting a show with the exact opposite messages. The show now represented everything equal and free and was the symbol for the Democratic Party. Not only did Hamilton host an Obama fundraiser, but it was also an incentive Hillary Clinton used to have people donate to her campaign. It created immediate customers, all wanting to take part in this social and political commentary, specifically people from Gen Z, most of whom supported the show, but others who had something to prove. For example, recently a group went to the show to raise a Trump flag as a form of protest. With the proposed Hamilton movie setting to premiere in 2020, it raises little question that this show capitalizes on political drama for financial success. The only question now is whether or not it is trying to actually stand for more, or if it's only for the money.